Are you curious? This is Angy Stewart from Mia InnerLight and Kardec Radio. So if you like our video, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Mia InnerLight. Today we are going to talk about reincarnation and science. Yes, science. Science is finally waking up to the reality that is reincarnation. So in another video, I spoke only about reincarnation. I gave all kinds of details, more like psychological details about what is reincarnation, what are all the philosophies that believe and understand it, the law of action and reaction, or the law of karma. So all these details you can access in this other video. But this one we are going to be specifically about reincarnation and science. So to start, I have to mention the most important name of it, Dr. Ian Stevenson. So Dr. Ian Stevenson is a Canadian-American psychiatrist from the University of Virginia. And he spent all his life researching very amazing cases of reincarnation. So he used to travel miles and miles to many different countries to research those subjects. The subjects are kids, usually from 2 to 7 years old. So they are very young. And why so young? Because he wanted only to interview kids and the families of those kids that were very young, so their minds couldn't be corrupted. Their minds couldn't be using some kind of imagination or actually lying. Super interesting. He wrote many books. One of the amazing books that I actually bought is this, 20 Cases of Suggestive Reincarnation. So suggestive reincarnation. He does not want to impose his findings, but he wants to suggest to science that it is possible. This book is not a romance. It's not something very romantic that you're going to read and you're going to be like, ah. No, it has all the facts in a very scientific way. So he proves and disproves, explains, analyzes step by step how a scientific analysis has to be. Because it was not done as a romance style, it was done actually for the academy, for the scientific research. But if you buy the book, you will be amazed by the stories in the book. So he researched thousands of cases, but this book only tells you the story of 20, only 20. But the cases are so extremely intense that's very difficult not to believe it. I will mention only one case that was a case that impacted me deeply. So the case is of a very poor family from India. And the little kid that I believe is 6 years old, he starts getting very rebel against his family, especially his parents. And he starts complaining about everything. He starts saying the way they eat is strange, the food they eat is not correct, they don't follow certain traditions, their clothes are very strange, this is not his house, where is his wife, where are his kids? Yes, crazy. Can you imagine a 6-year-old asking you these questions? Very strange. And then, of course, people start talking about, and Dr. Ian Stevenson hears it, goes there, and starts interviewing the parents, the child, the neighbors. He does a very big research. The story of this kid is that he started also mentioning the name of the city he lived, the name of his wife, the name of his family, his kids, the street he lived. So he gave the amount of details was amazing. And he also lived in India. But India is a very big country, and it was actually very far from where they lived in this lifetime. But time passed and Dr. Ian Stevenson took the whole family, the mother, father, child, to travel to this location. There they were able to actually contact the family, and they discovered, yes, there was a man with that name that had kids and was married to that woman, but he died a few years ago. And then finally, after a lot of trouble, they are finally able to put them together. The families didn't want to accept, but in the end, they heard the child. And they were very surprised. But because this type of subjects, this type of conversations in India is actually kind of common, what is very uncommon in the United States, they didn't want to fully believe in it. So the wife of the reincarnated child said, I want to have an interview with him alone. So she went alone with the child and with another person, and she asked very private questions to the child. And the child answered everything correctly, even mentioning a birthmark the woman had in her body that nobody knew about it. So this was one of the cases Dr. Ian Stevenson studied. How not to understand it. I'm not even talking about believing. I'm talking about understanding it. So very, very shocking case, super powerful. But he later on, he specialized in certain birthmarks. So he specialized in certain reincarnations that actually a person was born with some kind of birth defects. And then he wrote another book. The name of the book is A Contribution to the Etiology of Birthmarks and Birth Defects. So in this other book, he researched 200 cases that are reincarnated with these specific birthmarks. And all his subjects described how they died. One case, he described that he was shot on the head and the bullet went through his ear, through the other side of the head, and that's how he died. And the child was actually born with a very tiny ear and half of his face not fully developed. In Spiritism, we explain this because the perispirit, we have the physical body that will die, we have the spirit that's eternal, and we have the perispirit that connects the physical body and the spirit. And this perispirit is actually what keeps our physical body form. So when he was shot, the perispirit received the impact and it was printed like this. And because of many, many reasons, the child, the spirit, returned to life with that condition, really connected with his past life. Extremely interesting. You guys have to read more about that. Then we have also to talk about his follower or successor. His name is Dr. Jim Tucker, also from the University of Virginia. Dr. Ian Stevenson died, but Dr. Jim Tucker is alive and he's brilliantly continuing his research. He also wrote a beautiful book where he actually mentions a lot the study, the work, and the dedication of Dr. Ian Stevenson. The name is Life Before Life. So there he continues the studies, the descriptions of many other cases. He explains also that in the past, when Dr. Ian Stevenson wrote the book 20 Suggestive Cases, was in 1966. So very few percentage of the American, Canadian population talked about this because it was like a shame. It's like weird. You don't talk about these things. Whereas in other countries, it's no problem at all. But nowadays, also because of internet, things are easier. So he is able to study American, Canadians, subjects. And also he mentions that only between 1 and 10% of the population talks about it. It does not mean a case of reincarnation didn't happen in their lives, but they just don't want to talk about it. There is a beautiful movie that was just created that's called Proof of Heaven. That's also talk about reincarnation. So take a look. If you like, subscribe. Bye-bye.